In this video, we are going to go over how to use the lasso tool. And in the next video, we'll go over how to use the clone stamp tool. Now, these are geared towards making the types of images that I'm asking you to make for the still life assignment. And so the lasso and the clone stamp we're primarily going to use them to make abstract images. But I'm also going to show you how to use the lasso in more realistic settings as well. So the lasso tool is right here, and it is one of the main types of selection tools, along with the quick select tool and the rectangular or elliptical marquee tools. All of these tools, if you click on it or you hover over it, you should get a little idea of what you do. And with that, basically with the lasso tool, you just draw and it follows your mouse and it makes whatever shape it makes. And you see that the dotted lines are telling you that there is a selection there. I'm going to go ahead and go to select and deselect, or press Command and D to get rid of that selection. We also have the polygonal lasso tool, which I really only use if I know that I want to go straight across on some edges. And basically you just click to a point and then you click to the next point and it will draw a straight line. Now I just double clicked there to close it, but if you don't do that, you have to be careful. So let me show you what I mean. I'm going to go to select and deselect. If you click and click and click and you want to close it off, you can double click, or you can move your arrow to the beginning, and then when you see that O, that's going to let you know that Photoshop will close off your selection. Then there is also the magnetic lasso tool, which I almost never use because the quick select tool is just more advanced and much quicker. But you see what's happening is I'm kind of running along the edge of this horse, and it is doing a pretty decent job of finding the edges. It's not perfect, but the more careful you are also with this, the better the edges will be. And this tool is similar to the polygonal lasso tool in that you need to come on and make sure you see that O and then let go, and then you'll know that it's going to close, and then you will see that selection. Now again, I don't really use the magnetic lasso, I just wanted to show you that it's there. So this time I'm going to press Command and D to deselect and move back to my main lasso tool. Now, let me show you first a realistic way you might use the lasso tool. What I mean by that is just in general image editing. Say I wanted to make the lights on the horse more saturated, I could do that by using the lasso tool or a variety of other tools, but the lasso tool might be the quickest in this case. And basically what I'm going to do is I'm just going to be pretty rough and just circle the cowboy. Right, I'm not being too careful about the edges. I'm making sure I don't have the horse or the cowboy out of my selection, and I'm just going to let go and it'll automatically close it up. And then when I have that, I right now have a hard edge, and I will want to go to select and mask to soften it up. But first let me just show you what I mean by a hard edge. So I'm going to my adjustment layers here, and I have my hue and saturation adjustment layer. So I'm going to click that, and then you'll see it comes in as hue saturation 1, and we have the main hue saturation part, and then we have the layer mask. And the layer mask we're going to go over in more detail in another video, but the layer mask basically hides or shows parts of a layer. So in this case, the white is what's showing through and letting the adjustment go through, and the black is hiding it. So basically the white is where the horse is. And when we go ahead and click back on the adjustment and bump up the saturation to extremes, we'll see the hard edge of the selection, and that we're only seeing the saturation bump within the white area, the area that I selected. Now, of course, I want a softer edge. I would never go push saturation to 100 anyways, but I'm going to want a little bit of a softer edge, because at some point you can start to see a little bit of an edge, and maybe you only want to pump it up a little bit and it's fine. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to go back a few steps. I'm going to go to open my history panel, and I'm going to go just click up a few steps to my lasso tool, and then I'm going to collapse that. And then I'm going to go ahead and choose my select and mask option. So if I click on that, that's going to open a new dialog, and you'll notice that the left hand and the right hand sides change, and that the image also changes. There's now a red overlay over it, and that's basically saying the red is where you are not selected, and the regular image is where you are. You can change the views again. The ones I like are onion skin, where the non-selected area becomes transparent, or black and white, so I can really see the edge. And I'm going to stay here for a minute because what I want to do in this case is I really want to feather the edge a lot so that there is a very strong gradient from white to black. And that's because I want the saturation to kind of slowly come in so that we don't see that hard edge. In a lot of other cases, you only want to feather like a pixel if you're just trying to put an actual image on top of another image. But in this case, I want a pretty big feather. I'm just going to go and look back at my overlay and just make sure that it looks good. And it does. There's maybe a few areas that's creeping in a little bit on the horse, but that is okay. So I'm now going to click OK, and note that's a large feather. Then I'm going to come back and do my hue saturation adjustment layer. Click on that, and again we have our layer mask with the white showing the adjustment and the black hiding it. Of course, we haven't done anything yet, but now when I pump up the saturation, it's going to take a lot longer before I really start to see the kind of discoloration in the sky. All right, so I can go pretty far. I can go to let's say 50, and then we definitely have way more pop in the horse. And you might use the lasso tool in similar areas if you say wanted to have this building be maybe just a little bit brighter. You might select it, select and mask, feather, again about 120 pixels in this case. Now the amount you feather it will depend on the size of your image. And then I'm going to go back to my adjustments, and maybe I will do a brightness and contrast and just pump up the brightness. Again, there's a point at which you do kind of see that transition, but you have to get pretty far. You can make this a lot brighter. Okay, so that's two realistic ways we might use the lasso tool. Now, if we're going to make something abstract with the lasso tool, what I might want to do is I might want to make a selection. Since we have a cowboy, I'm actually going to kind of make a lasso shape. And it's going to be a little bit janky, but that's okay. So I have a lasso shape here, and I'm going to go ahead now and I want to make a hole in here. So when you have the lasso tool, you can always add to or subtract from a selection. But to do so, you need to hold Option or Alt on your keyboard, and then you'll notice that there's a minus sign by the lasso, or if you hold Shift, you'll see the plus sign. So if I hold Shift and I make a selection out here, you'll note now that the selection has grown. So I didn't want that, so I'm going to press Command and Z to undo. In this case, I want to hold the Option key to get the minus, and I'm just going to go ahead and draw a circle in here, and that's going to basically take this out of the selection. And then I'm going to go ahead and say Command C to copy, or go to Edit and copy, and then paste. And what's going to happen here is I'm just getting white, and the reason for that is because I copied the adjustment layer. So I need to make sure when I'm copying, I'm on the right layer that has the pixels that I do want. And in this case, I need to be on the background layer. So now I'm going to press Command C to copy, and then Command V to paste. And then I'll have layer 1. I'm just going to go ahead and move it the layer order above these adjustment layers. So you can see now the adjustment layer is not affecting the lasso because it is above it. Adjustment layers only affect what is below them. Then I'm going to go ahead and move this over, and I'm going to use my free transform command, which we also go over in the quick select video. Then I get this bounding box, and with this bounding box I can shrink the lasso. I don't really ever want to grow things because they'll become fuzzy and look kind of janky and lose quality. And I can make it smaller. I can also, if my cursor is outside of the box, I can rotate it. I can put it in place, and then we have the cowboy with a little lasso. Now, you might want to include other images if we're working with abstract shapes. Maybe I'm just clicking on this tab to move over from my original image. Maybe I want to get a few strands of an out of focus slot machine. So I'm going to just do that and press Command C to copy. Move over to my cowboy image and Command V to paste. Right, and maybe it can just be kind of raining these little shapes. And I might want to do more with these later. I'm just going to keep those there for now. I'm going to go find another image. And this has a nice abstract shape. And what I want to do here is maybe this cowboy is trying to lasso Pelican Pete here. So I'm going to go ahead and just use my lasso, go around Pelican Pete here, and not very carefully. And then I'm just going to copy, Command C, and then paste. So I now have Pelican Pete here. And I'm going to go ahead and use my free transform command again to make him a little smaller and to put him in the lasso. Now, right now he's in front of the lasso, and I can simply make him behind the lasso by moving the layer order. I'm going to take his layer 5, and move it down to below the lasso. So we can start to collect this, and I'd really start to play with colors and repetition, especially in the abstract sense. In a little bit later, we'll look at a more complete version of this image that really kind of takes it to an abstract level, and we'll also look at different ways to blend layers.